Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So, comments from the audience. Is there anyone else calling in besides Chris?
We do have people, mostly, it looks like it's staff.
Okay, so I'm going to assume no comments. Are there any corrections to the agenda or consent calendar?
I don't know which one.
Okay, doesn't seem as though there are any, so I'll move that around.
Everybody getting an echo?
Yes, I'm not sure what's going on with the echo. We haven't had that happen before.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the consent calendar. Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second.
Was that Peterson? Who's Nick? Okay, you have a motion and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
Vice President Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Drexline?
Yes.
Director Peterson?
Yes.
Director Ronda?
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes unanimous. Okay. So it looks like we have item 6A, and this is the surplus.
Good afternoon. As you may recall at the last,
I'm afraid this is fairly unintelligible.
All right, let's try it.
okay, as you may recall at the last board meeting, y'all spoke about Mr. Wallace for Sierra Tahoe Ready Mix and the water service relief that he was wanting during the winter months because of his circumstances. And staff came up with a little idea of charging 36% of the water base rate. And basically where this number came from was from a report from the Municipal Financial Services that says 36% of everybody's base rate basically goes towards fire protection. So right now he has a 2-inch service. He pays roughly $300 to $736 per month or per quarter for his base charges. And you know, if you pass this ordinance today, that's what he'll pay is 36% of that $736, which would be $265. I did speak with Mr. Wallace about this, and he was very pleased with this proposal. He said, you know, during this time, you know, at this time, anything would help because times are so difficult. And I also talked with him about the sewer units that he has. And I told him that he would need to call into our inspections department to for us to come out there and meet with him, decide, you know, if he wants to continue using those sewer units or not use it at all. And so we're waiting on him to give us a call back. He hasn't called us to schedule an inspection yet. So is there any other questions about this item?
I do. This item was discussed by the prior board. I guess I'd ask my legacy board members, what was the feeling of the prior board on this? This is kind of new to me.
So the feelings of the prior board was, you know, they were in favor of looking for something to kind of help him out because what it is he's got like a 1,000-foot run from our tank to his facility. And this line is actually not buried because of the rocky terrain. There's just no way to bury that line. And so he, normally during his January, February, March quarterly billing, he doesn't use any consumption there whatsoever. So, you know, and to be honest with you, he wouldn't be able to use that line anyway because it freezes during the winter time, so we just shut it off. So when we went back to look to see what we could do to help him, one of the ways we could do that was to look, just charging this 36% for the base charge on, for the fire protection. And staff was agreeable to that, and he was very pleased with that idea as well.
Yeah, I think it was really looking to kind of build on the consistency we had as to, you know, what was the intent of the buy-in fees, and as they relate to a percentage. And we, I guess the previous board, 36% was, the conclusion was that even though he couldn't use the water going to his site and, you know, just to, you know, almost to some degree like a variance, the hardship of the property wasn't permissible, he would be still able to enjoy fire infrastructure year-round, although, you know, less likely to be used right now, of course. And so as a result, he should still be contributing to that effort regardless of his kind of quarterly use during the winter. And so that's where the 36% kind of landed. Yes.
And the board was inclined to agree with this. Okay.
Yeah, I think, because it was just the last board meeting, we talked about it, and I think they were ready to take action, but they had a couple of questions they wanted answered. One was what Tim answered, what kind of dollars are we talking about? And then what was the customer's response? And we didn't have that information at the last meeting.
Okay, so you're looking for a
Yes.
motion to approve it?
Yes.
I'll move staff's recommendation.
Do I need to read it? Do I need to read it?
Yes.
I kind of like that precedent, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think we, in honor of Randy, if you're out there listening, I think we need to continue on the precedent that you set for. And I like it.
Okay. Today I'm requesting that the board grants Sierra Tahoe Ready Mix an exception to the administrative code regarding relief for quarterly water service charges at 1526 Emerald Bay Road, and only require payment of 36% of the base water charge during the winter months when water service cannot be utilized due to special circumstances.
That is my motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
Vice President Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Director Peterson?
Yes.
Director Ronzos?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So we're at payment of claims. I'm going to move approval of payment of claims in the amount of $1,353,347.07.
Second that.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Director Cephalou?
Yes.
Vice President Sheehan?
Yes.
Director Exline?
Yes.
Director Peterson?
Yes.
Director Ronzos?
Yes.
That motion passes unanimous.
That brings us to 7A, standing and ad hoc committee reports. Does anybody have any reports? And also, we want to think about us as board members, committee assignments for the coming year. I think John has an idea for a
Yeah, tell you.
ad hoc committee.
Sure. Yeah, if I may, I guess I'd like to open a discussion about creating a new ad hoc committee. This is really an idea that came out of Operations Committee a little bit ago, adding a new System Efficiency and Sustainability Committee. And I think we see the purpose would be to advance environmental, system efficiency, and sustainability initiatives as a continuation of our current environmental policy that was approved by the board earlier this year. And I think such programs would include water and energy efficiency, reduction of GHGs, perhaps climate change planning, and alternative power planning, especially solar, possibly biomass. So there's been a lot of discussion of these items in Operations Committee, and it seems that I think more board member interaction is desired. And this would also help make space potentially for 2 new board members to sit on the Operations Committee as well. So perhaps at this time we could just get board thoughts on adding this committee and if there's any interested board members.
I think one of the things I'd add is, really kind of what brought it to light was, especially as the solar process was going forward and, all these other things were going on, that it was being included in the ops meeting, and that made the ops meeting ever longer. And so, we realized pretty quickly we're taking up that first hour on just the subject matter of, what was only an hour and a half meeting. So it's better to kind of siphon it off, just to keep everything a bit more managed, to manage it a bit better. That was probably the main reason, I would say. That being said, I'd love to sit on the committee, and I'm in favor of it. Just, again, with especially everything going on, I would probably recommend it frequently now. I don't know if that would always be the case, because obviously just with the solar process where it is, there's a lot of kind of moving pieces, so regular meetings are appropriate, but I could see a reality into the future where that isn't the case, where maybe you meet quarterly or something like that. So I think it could be very depending on need at some level.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. And either of you two, do you have interest in?
I have a lot of interest in this topic, and if nobody else is willing to step up, and I'm willing to step up and participate in that meeting.
Yeah, and as I said, it's just time for us to keep that way. I think it'd be great if you guys were on the Operations Committee.
Yeah, I'd like to be on the Operations Committee, but the ad hoc, I guess I'd like to defer to
Nick and
maybe Shane and Nick if you guys want to.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So with that, I think we'll start this new System Efficiency and Sustainability Committee with Nick and Shane as the board members. And I think in terms of the other committees, I believe Melanie will send the entire board our list of committees, and you can see where the existing vacancies are, and then we can have more of that discussion at the next board meeting.
You don't want to go through now.
We just some consideration. I think maybe if you just kind of threw out the assignments that exist, and kind of, so there could be some consideration now.
So we have a Finance Committee, we have the Operations, we have
Executive Committee?
Executive Committee, which would be President and Vice President. And right now, we don't have a president, so that'll be something we'll take care of the next meeting.
Yeah, I think in terms of protocol, at the next meeting, the board will elect the new president and vice president, and then thereafter, you can discuss and go into the committee assignments.
Okay. And Melanie, when do you think you'll send that list?
I can send it out this afternoon.
So we can get the list, look at it, and then if you, there's a certain committee you really have an appetite to be on, and you could probably contact John or myself or Melanie if you have any questions.
Okay. Well, one thing we find interesting too, especially if you don't have to drive there but can continue to do it remotely, is the El Dorado County. I mean, with all your background, and I'm not trying to push this on you honestly, but no, I'm serious. But just with all your background, kind of with the systems of various different size, of varying different climate and problems and issues, I think you would be a great fit on that because you would understand kind of the various problems that immediately, and and hopefully know kind of our issues with them, just as an idea. Again, especially if you can meet remotely, you don't have to drive, right? Because it was once a month, right? You went.
It is once. It is once.
Yeah.
And for instance, which I will report in a minute, but the December meeting was canceled, so we didn't meet in December.
Yeah, so you're talking about the water agency.
That one right there,
yeah. There's an El Dorado County one also.
Well, that's they kind of rebranded themselves this year and they dropped the county. So, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it still is a county agency, but they just don't want that in their name. And they
Kind of a rebranding.
Yeah,
Sure.
and they changed the logo and they, kind of changed. I don't think they necessarily changed their mission statement, but they're just trying to get it out there, and they felt it was best not to have county in the name.
Because you're familiar kind of how that process works with us and kind of the county and how we give money to them and then have to request money back. I mean, I don't know, John, if you want to give kind of a little background on that process.
Sure. I mean, so this, the El Dorado County Water Agency, that's really the legal title, that remains the legal title. It was implemented by state law. And the water agency, they get a certain portion of our property tax revenues. So our property tax revenues go to the water agency. And then we work with the water agency to identify projects and or partnership projects to sort of to get that money back to the district and to the South Lake Tahoe area, and actually the entire east slope of the county to do water rights projects, water system improvement projects, and the like. So on a year-to-year basis, we put a lot of work, and Julie puts a lot of work into identifying our engineering projects, and with EVO on our groundwater projects, and they also assist with the funding of the integrated regional water management plan. So those are some of the main projects and programs that we're involved with the water agency in.
Okay, yeah, and I go back a ways with campaigns, so.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, good enough.
Okay, do we have any board member reports?
None for me.
No, I wanted to wish everybody a happy holidays, especially in the lockdown and craziness. It's been honestly, it's over the last meeting of the year, it's been a really exciting year. All the things that happened in the district. I left you guys in March. I came back, and now we might have to separate again. Take this moment. Yeah, we accomplished a lot given all the challenges. Compliment staff on everything they did, from kind of leadership shown from John down. To plan for COVID, to make sure everything was separated, we could maintain critical infrastructure, even if there was an outbreak in the district. And I think what was really impressive for me is that while doing that, we also moved forward on some big objectives, solar and the like. And I think that's just a testament to the culture of staff and SDPUD. And it was a very exciting year, very interesting year, but I think we got a lot accomplished. It really came together, the old board and moving into the new board. So no, I mean, really excited to see what happens next year. Again, happy holidays to everybody.
I just have a short one. I want to make the board and staff fully aware. I'm also a director on Tahoe Keys Property Owners Association. And insofar as we have any dealings with them, I want to make sure that I don't stray into conflict of interest territory. So if I could, John, if you can kind of keep track of, if we're getting too close to the line, I hope you let me know. And I'd like council to be on alert for this as well. I'm on alert for it, but I don't know where the line is, because there are things that are in the public interest. But I don't financially benefit from it as a volunteer organization. So it doesn't really strictly meet the Form 700 definition for a conflict of interest, but yet I'm representing two different populations that are.
Okay.
Okay. So,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
And I guess if I can speak, yeah, I guess I'd like to echo Nick's wish for happy holidays for staff and everybody on the board here. And also I want to thank John. He, 2 Saturdays ago, he took a big chunk of his day and showed me around the district, a lot of the above ground facilities. Obviously, you couldn't see the pipe stuff. Anyways, yeah, I appreciate John's time, and got to meet some of the staff, Buck and Mike and Ron, and who else? Anyways, it was really Steven. But I really appreciate staff's time to basically get me familiarized with some of the issues you guys are dealing with. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we got to maybe 20 or so of those facilities so far, so I think 3 more Saturdays we'll be all set.
Maybe yours next.
And I extended the same offer to Dave, and I think in January we'll look at some time with some facilities.
I just would like to welcome Shane and Dave to their first board meeting, which is the last one of the year. And it really was an interesting year. It was a challenge. I think losing a board member, the passing of Jim was kind of unprecedented. So it was a challenging year, but I echo what Nick said. I think staff and everyone did a great job. And on to 2021.
Bring it on.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And we sure needed and appreciate the board support during this year.
You know, on that subject, this little side topic, when I was a young engineer, we did a lot of master plans, like water master plans, sewer master plans, storm drain master plans. This is back in the 80s. And the planning horizon was 2020. So that was always that long range. That's the ultimate date was 2020, right? Well, when 2020 came, I looked up and said, oh my God, we're here. This is the end of time. There's no more future. There's nothing beyond 2020. It was really a shock to me.
One more thing to make you feel old.
Yeah.
Did all those projects get implemented that were planned?
Well, it is fun to go back and look at those and see what got done. And the ones where they actually accomplished what you laid out in the 1980s, that's pretty cool.
Okay, El Dorado Water Agency Purveyor Report. As I said, the meeting was canceled, and then if you want to talk to me about the meeting, so move on to General Manager Report.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. I have a few updates here, starting with a staffing update. We are in the process of refilling 6 positions, and I'll go through some of these for the lab tech position. We're looking to interview about 8 applicants in early January. And on the other positions, we're currently reviewing 23 applications for underground repair water, 26 applications for pump station operator, and 24 applications for the DVR recycled water workers. We will be interviewing 2 in-house candidates for pump station supervisor on December 29th. And Liz just started advertising for her old position, HR analyst. And this is going to be open for quite a while, advertising until January 17th. And we just received a retirement notice from our accounting supervisor, taking effect in March, essentially. So we're going to start working on that recruitment real soon. So lots going on, and fortunately, lots of interest out there. So next, let's talk about COVID a little bit. And Dave, to your comment, I mean, the board set out some 2020 goals in January, and pandemic was not on that.
Yeah.
But COVID-19, there continues to be a lot of spread locally and in our region. We are experiencing a significant growth in cases in the county. A month ago, there were 299 active cases. That went to 906 2 weeks ago, and today, 1,651. So a lot of growth. The county is now reporting today a 11.5% positivity rate. And again, we know that South Lake tends to have higher rates with all of our out-of-town visitors, and we're starting to see more of those visitors this holiday season and with the snow. So some good news and bad news, with the snow and holidays locally. At the district, we have 1 employee out that's testing positive with moderate symptoms. We have 3 employees out as a precaution following a potential exposure. We expect them to return next week if all goes well. And 3 other employees have returned to work after testing positive, recovering, and meeting our return to work criteria. Their sickness was actually very mild or asymptomatic in those cases. And then we had 5 others that have recently returned to work after staying home as a precaution, again, due to potential exposures. So we definitely had some staff disruptions, and they're actually hitting our plant operations the hardest. Right now, we have some crews working additional 12-hour shifts so that others on their crew can remain home, both due to sickness or as a precaution. So to those guys and gals, I really want to express our appreciation to the operations crews. They have really stepped up and worked more to help keep the workplace and their co-workers healthy. Again, at the district, we continue to operate at our own risk level 3, and that includes more remote work. It includes those 12-hour staggered shifts for the field crews to help keep them separated, help keep them safer. And the front office, it remains closed, but with all customer activity occurring remotely, and I think very effectively for our customers. No delays because of us. And last item, as for board meetings, we've had some discussions and some emails on this. And Kelly, I believe the board consensus is that we hold future meetings virtually using an expanded GoToMeeting portal where all of you, and in fact, all participants can have that remote FaceTime on the screen. So that we expect that to occur at the very next board meeting.
Does GoToMeeting allow the moderator to silence somebody?
So we looked at the Zoom webinar and the GoToMeeting webinar packages. Had a conference call with both companies, and we decided to go to GoToWebinar. Everybody's automatically muted in that process as part of that webinar setup. We can put the 5 board members up as, I forget the term, whether they're participants or presenters. So we'll be able to see the 5 of you. Everybody else, we won't see them as part of the display. And they're automatically locked out of being able to unmute themselves, but we can turn that lock off so that they can unmute and mute as needed. And then we can also physically mute them if there's some extraneous noise or something going on.
Right, yeah, it's essential.
Yep.
For the moderator to be able to do that.
Yeah, so we looked at both packages and decided to go to the GoToWebinar version. We're using GoToMeeting right now for this. Just because of the features, and we can get moved into the corporate accounts, and so save some money there. We're adding some features, so hopefully it comes out close to a wash on the cost.
Thank you.
I think that's going to be a big improvement. When I was in Chris's position, there was always a tad bit awkward when you want to kind of add something, and you kind of felt like this voice coming from the roof. So I think this setup is going to be much more user-friendly. And although it's not as, kind of as preferable as to being, face-to-face, it is a lot easier to kind of, resonate with people over that format compared to kind of talking to them.
Okay. So we have the staff and attorney reports, and is Evo going to give his presentation?
Yeah, hi Kelly,
Hi.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Well, I have 2 items to give you a brief report on. The first item is on the groundwater management plan update. And I'd like to first start by wishing you a good afternoon and congratulations to Directors Peterson and Ramzos on their election to the board.
Thank you.
As part of the staff report, you should have received a slide deck, basically a set of PowerPoint slides with notes that was developed as a primer about the groundwater management plan update. And just a little background, if you haven't gone in and read the primer yet, the Tahoe Public Utility District and the Eldorado Water Agency are both groundwater sustainability agencies responsible for managing groundwater resources for all beneficial users within our local groundwater basin. As I'm sure you're all aware, that the primary use of groundwater within our basin is as drinking water. The district, in collaboration with the County Water Agency, is in the process of conducting a first 5-year update of the 2014 groundwater management plan. This groundwater management plan, or the update to the plan, will be due to the California Department of Water Resources by January 1 of 2022. An important part of the update process is attempting to engage with all beneficial users of water within the basin. And that's the reason that primer that you have before you was developed. It was developed for interested parties to learn about the update and the opportunities for engagement that will be provided as part of this process. If you have not had a chance to take a look at it, I really urge you to do so. It contains some very good information, background information about the pertinent groundwater management regulations, the district and the El Dorado Water Agency GSAs, and how we've worked together over a long number of years to implement groundwater management within this groundwater basin. The primer also includes general information about new information which is being developed for inclusion in the updated groundwater management plan. It also talks about opportunities for engagement and anticipated schedule for completion of this update and where to go as far as sources for additional information. So the plan is to start rolling out a press release announcing the update and then sending direct mailers to identified stakeholders after the New Year's holiday. All of the related items with the rollout will be posted on the groundwater management webpage. And during the course of 2021, expect to be informed at least on a quarterly basis by myself on the update to the plan. If you would like to get more information, you can always contact me about any questions you might have about the groundwater management plan and the update process. And if you would like, you can also send me an email with your email address or provide that to Melanie or Marla. And I'd be happy to add you to the interested parties list. And through that list, I'll be sending out email notifications of public meetings, probably all virtual, stakeholder workshops, and new information that's being used to update the plan. Second thing on the update, we actually did have a stakeholders group workshop this morning. I saw Director Peterson was on the call, and I think it was a very good workshop. We focused, the majority of the time was spent on focusing on these outreach materials and how to get the public engaged in this process. We also talked about the proposed contents of the updated plan, and we spoke a little bit about potential projects for the new 5-year plan. So, do you have any questions?
Unmuted.
Now about the primer, I'd be happy to take them now, or if you want me to go on to the next item, I'm glad to do that as well.
Evo Peterson here, I do have a question for you. Listening in on the workshop this morning, it sounded like there was a real focus on man-made contaminants and contaminant plumes and that sort of thing. I just wanted to ask you if the groundwater management plan also focuses on naturally occurring contaminants and projects and management strategies for natural contaminants.
The issues that we have with natural contaminants have been, I guess the appropriate word is very manageable. We've had problems with arsenic and we have a couple wells with uranium problems, which are managed by putting those on standby status. And up to this point, we've been able to meet our water system demands, community needs. However, as problems may arise, the groundwater management plan, is a living document, planning document, and as new problems arise, there may be more focus and interest to help deal with those types of contaminants if they do become a problem to the community in meeting its drinking water needs.
Thank you.
Eagle, this is Gary from the step. Just a couple of comments. The reason why the district is working with the water agency is the district service area doesn't cover the entire basin. So the district could not be the groundwater sustainability agency for that area outside of the basin, outside the district service area. So we've been working actively with the water agency. We each formed a GSA, and we have a memorandum of understanding to implement and work towards the an alternative plan in lieu of the GSP. And that I think Eagle mentioned we have until January 31, 2022 to complete the plan. One other comment in regard to the SAG meetings that Eagle's been organizing. If the board probably should identify if particular board members want to participate in that. Maybe, I don't know if it's really a formal committee, but we really should only have 2 board members at any one time attending or listening in on the SAG meeting because of Brown Act limitations. So, John, maybe you want to give that some thought for next week, in addition to the committee assignments.
Good point. We'll do, Gary.
Good point. We'll do, Gary. All right. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions about the groundwater management plan update?
I don't think so.
Okay. So the kind of changing gears a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about the Paloma Well Rehabilitation project. This is a new project. Just to give you a little bit of background, the Paloma Well is the 3rd largest production well in terms of available pumping capacity in the district's water system. During the 2020 water year, which ended September 30th, the Paloma Well produced about 165 million gallons and accounted for a little over 9% of the district's total groundwater production. This well was constructed in 1994. The submersible pump and motor, which were purchased in 1995, this is the first time that we've had to remove the pump and motor from the well. What happened, again, give you a little bit more background, during the annual well efficiency testing that we do on district wells this past October, October 14th, during the well test, the sand produced exceedingly large amounts of sand. And because of the large amounts of sand that were produced from the discharges by this well, the well was shut down, it was tabbed out and locked out, and so it's currently temporarily out of service and kept on for inspection. So in early November, working with Carson Pump, the district removed all the downhole equipment and performed a cursory inspection of the submersible pump and motor, and recorded a well inspection video to view the condition of the well casing and screens. During the downhole equipment removal, electrical tests were performed directly on the submersible motor, and these electrical tests, these are insulation resistance tests, sometimes referred to as motor tests, were less than 1 megohm. And from the manufacturer's guidance, the critical resistance value for these submersible motors is on the order of 10 megohms. And the very low megohm reading on the motor is very consistent with the annual readings that are collected by the electrical department. And we've seen readings below this critical value actually on this motor since 2011. However, the direct reading that we have on the submotor, because these insulation readings, when you take them from the surface, you could be seeing the influence of the pump cable, or of the connection from the cable, or of the connection between the cable and the motor itself. If you have a direct reading, that somewhat suggests that the problem is actually internally in the motor itself, in terms of weaknesses, insulation weaknesses in the motor windings. Now, in 1997, the district actually purchased a replacement motor for this well. And this replacement motor has been stored at the district college well house since the time of purchase. Actually, I'm sorry, it said 1997, it was 1999. So it's been laying in state in storage within its shipping crate since 1999, so a little over 20 years. Now, there's a problem with, again, the submersible motor that we pulled from the well and the replacement motor that we have at the college well house. And the problem with these motors is that these are motors that were constructed with mercury used at the top of the motor as a seal on the submersible motor. So these are radial seals that are applied or located at the top of the motor around the shaft to keep water from leaking into the top of the motor and oil within the submersible motor from leaking out into the drinking water well. So these you can imagine that these mercury seals present some problems, and these motors are typically not used anymore. They're obsolete, and there's only one place in the country where these motors are actually worked on, and the manufacturer of these is FlowServe, and you have to send these motors to a service center located across country in Taneytown, Maryland, to repair. So these wells will not be serviced by FlowServe. They will only be repaired, which involves removing the seals and replacing them with mechanical seals.
Hey, Evo,
Now, yeah,
would you mind coming down to the boardroom? We're having real difficulty in understanding anything you're saying.
I was gonna ask Evo to read my kids' books to get them to sleep.
It's really muffled for where you are, and reading the faces of everybody, and nobody can understand what's being said, unfortunately. I hate to tell you that.
okay. All right, I'll be right down, okay?
Thank you.
I'm trying to hear anything.
Yeah, it was a look of concentration on all our faces.
I would close my eyes and try to.
I have had that feeling since the test was like Ellen Key, where you kind of look up and like, "This makes me feel it."
Well, that's the same thing this morning on the conference call for the workshop. It was very difficult to understand. I think he just needs a new microphone.
He was on his laptop,
He was on his laptop, yeah.
Because now a lot of formats I use like are pretty seamless. You know what I mean? And I just use those Apple earbuds all the time now. I mean, it's pretty, whatever kind of format you use, it's.
I can't turn with my mask on. I'm not really sure why. I'm like, oh, can you say that again?
Like turning down the radio when you're looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess let's check out Evo's laptop, because the call this morning was not that bad, but it was
Yeah,
not the
you
best.
could hear everybody else, so it wasn't.
Oh, is that okay? Yeah.
It was just his in particular, and he was doing the most talking, so.
Kind of, yeah, makes a difference.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see.
Talking about the mercury seal and the
Okay,
vendor across
so
country.
do you want me to start from the top, or you want me to?
Do you guys feel like do you have that background, or would you rather have them maybe just?
To summarize, it sounds like you got some motors that are on the shelf a long time, they've got a mercury problem, and there's only one place in the country.
Which is in Maryland.
Right, so that's, so the issue is, so we have a worn motor, okay. We have a replacement motor that we purchased in 1999. You know, both these motors, and we have a couple other wells that also have mercury motors in them that are still active. But I'll bring that up in a second. So really the way that they're handling these mercury motors, the manufacturer, is that they actually have a kind of decommissioning program for these motors. And before they even will accept these at the service center in Maryland, is you have to send these motors to a facility in Pennsylvania where the mercury is removed and then recycled. It's Bethlehem Apparatus in Hillertown, PA. I believe, or I was told, that this is like the only facility in the country that does this kind of work, and they will provide you an EPA certification that the mercury has been recycled. So it's kind of a must-do if you have these worn motors, that at a minimum it needs to be packed up and sent to Bethlehem Apparatus to get that certificate of recycling, and proper disposal of that motor. So then the process itself after you do that, so probably the kind of ballpark numbers just to pack it up, send it to Bethlehem Apparatus, and get that certificate of disposal. You're looking at probably $10,000–15,000. If you were to take that motor that we purchased in 1999
and wanted to convert that, to remove the mercury and convert it to a double mechanical seal, it's going to cost you as much as what that motor cost back in 1997. So pretty much what I guess the bottom line is that it's probably going to be more cost effective to looking at purchasing a new submersible pump motor than trying to use the replacement motor that was purchased back in 1999. So right now we're in the process of developing or doing the planning for this, for the rehab project. There were things that were identified in the well video that also need attention. There was a hole in the section of screen that will need to be patched. There are sections of the screen that need some rehabilitation work. While you have, again, this is the first time that's been done since the well was constructed 25 years ago. So it's going to need a bit of attention. So this is all going to be the scope of the program. Again, you're going to have a scope of the program that's going to be focused on replacing the submersible pump motor. There's a number of ways that we can handle it. We can handle it as one project, or we can handle it under 2 different contracts. That's haven't really made any determination on that, or as far as a recommendation on how best to handle it. I think as we get more into the process of developing the bid package, I think it's going to become more evident which way to go on it, or what is the best way to go on it. So there's the pump and motor services, the well spring repair, the well rehab, and the other thing that we'll be working on is to do the redevelopment work as part of the well rehab. We're going to need to find a place where we can discharge significant quantities of water that's produced by this large well. So we're going to have to enter into discussions with the Conservancy. The best place to discharge that would be out to the Upper Truckee Meadow. And so we'll need an access agreement for that. And then we'll be looking to get a temporary discharge permit from Lahontan to handle those discharges. So that well is going to be out of service for a while. Getting this process done, and hoping to get it contracted and the work performed by Memorial Day is going to be a challenge. But we're going to give it our best, and hopefully we can get this work completed. So, any questions on that? Was this already on the radar for the CIP, or was it as far as?
Yeah, so we maintain a $500,000 line item in our budget each year for items that come up that were customized. Because we have to utilize those ones.
And then you had mentioned you have at least 2 other pumps that have this mercury seal. What's the plan, or is there a plan or a requirement for us to kind of move through those and replace those motors at some point?
There's nothing from the state of California with respect to these mercury motors that I've seen yet. A number of years ago, Illinois outlawed. So they're no longer used out in Illinois, and I suspect that's part of what triggered this decommissioning program from the manufacturer. But as far as instituting this, nationwide ban on that, I've not seen anything about that.
And then is there any kind of direct connection between the pump water that's pumped and the motor? Is there like any, threat of the mercury actually getting into the water that's being pumped out?
Well, obviously Illinois thought so. So, but, again, I have no.
I suppose you have a failure of a seal in a small percentage of pumps, which.
Well, I mean, the reason, the rationale when these things were designed and put out onto the market is that mercury doesn't wear out. Okay, that seal is like, supposed to last forever. Mechanical seals, they're made with physical materials, and they do wear. Mercury was supposedly, the new best seal that you can put on a submersible motor. These motors and pumps and motors from Flowserve, the Byron Jackson pumps and motors, they're typically regarded as kind of the upper end Cadillac pump and motors. Those Cadillacs have submersible pumps and motors.
And the pump and the motor always come as a single unit.
Well, you can, if you wear out a motor, you can get a replacement motor and match it to your pump. They don't have to come as sets, but more typically, they're purchases as such. There was an issue with the pump itself. The pump's going to need some work. So again, that's something, again, as we're continuing to work on this, we'll see if, we can do something to maybe salvage the pump and what types of motors we can make to it.
Okay. Could you just ballpark some costs for fire?
So I did a kind of preliminary estimate and ballpark, I think as a floor, you're looking at somewhere around $150,000.
Can you describe what it entails to replace the screens or to repair the screens? And I'm assuming that it's down in the well shaft somewhere.
Yeah. So there's actually an outfit in Northern California that specializes in patching casings and screens, and they use this process. It's referred to as a swedge. And so what they do is they lower, they've actually, this outfit, Longwire, is a family business that specializes in the fabrication of these tools. And they also fabricate patches. And, they would basically come here and they would lower the tool, and they use hydraulics, and basically they pressure fit. They kind of opposite of squeeze. They're inflating that patch to switch it over the screen, over the damaged portion of the screen, and that is your patch.
Sounds like an artery stent.
Unfortunately, I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah, good. If you can go through your entire life without becoming familiar with those, you should. Are all of our wells submersible pump motors? Are there any deep well turbines with the motor program?
Yeah, we have 2 wells with vertical turbine pumps. One is the Tahoe well, and Tahoe number 2, and then which is an active well, and that is the second largest production well within our system. And then the other well is the College well, and that's on standby because of uranium. So those are the 2 wells.
You can't, I guess, what's the wisdom of using a submersible?
The benefit, as far as the district is concerned, is noise, principally. Having these well houses within residential areas. You spend a lot of money on soundproofing for the building, and that doesn't always work. And so that's the primary benefit of it. Thank you.
Keeps the voles down too.
Let's say again.
Keeps the voles out of your yard too, from the area.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Evo. Thank you for coming out.
Yeah, thank you, Richard.
Welcome.
Thank you, Melanie, for setting it up.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Evo. This was so much better. Appreciate it.
Okay, now Kim again.
Just a quick update on a couple of things that's going on in customer service. You see here on the agenda, it says customer assistance program, but actually what this is the COVID relief program that we put in place. We did it last quarter and it ended on October the 30th. We re-implemented it this quarter, and I just wanted to report that we've had so far 443 applications that have come through and been approved for a total amount of around $86,000. So this will run until the end of this month. This number is not as high as what it was last time we ran the program. I believe last time we had, it was like, we had like 739 applications, and that was a total of around 161,000. So, we're still trying to get the word out there and trying to help people that actually need to utilize this program, which kind of leads into my next subject where it says billing updates. For those of you that are new here, a few months ago, the board approved that for me to hire a temporary collections person to kind of help folks set up payment plans and things of that sort. We've been able to set up around 30 payment plans, but when we first started out with this, our temp started on October the 26th, and her name is Shelley Alexander. She's doing a great job. Over the last 7 weeks, she's been able to collect a little over $200,000. So when she started, our total debt was about $1.5 million. So with her work and the normal payment collections that's been coming in, we're down to about $1 million now. So that's pretty good for the last 7 weeks, especially when you're trying to work with 2,700 accounts that are delinquent. So she's been able to help on that and, help folks get payment plans. Kim mentioned we've got about 30 payment plans in place now, so we're still working on it, still trying to help folks out, so I just want to give you a quick update on that. Thank you.
Just real quick, to kind of piggyback off that, on the agenda on consent, you approved again waiving the late fees, and I reported last board meeting that this is the fourth time, the fourth quarter, and so the total of that amount is about $270,000. And so if you add that to the numbers that Tim just reported for the assistance program, we're a little over $500,000 at this point into COVID relief.
And then simultaneously, we've collected $200,000.
Yes.
So I mean, that's kind of,
Yeah.
An interesting paradigm.
What's the nature of the delinquencies? Is it just people aren't paying their bills? Like how many months are they missing, or what's a generalized way of characterizing the delinquencies?
It's basically just people that's not paying their bills. The way our collection process works is, like I said, that's one reason why we brought this person on, is because we really don't have anybody to work collections. So by bringing her on, she's been able to, send letters out, call people, try to get payment plans set up. But as far as the normal process, what we do is, we're going to try to collect all we can up until around July. And then that's when I'll come back to the board, and what's left that's not been paid will be turned over to tax roll. And so that's really the only hammer that we've got right now as far as trying to collect, because there's a mandate in place that we can't go shut off people for non-payment at this time. So, and that's something that we've really never done in the past either. So we're trying to just work through this as we go.
And this past year, the former board chose not to have any liens put on their properties.
Right. And the $1 million is not an unusual amount. That's actually average over the last probably 7-8 years. Yeah, we average about somewhere between 3 and 4% delinquency rate. And as Tim said, a lot of people literally, they just prefer not to pay their bill, and then it gets turned over to the tax roll, and you get added to their property tax bill, and that's how they end up paying it one time a year.
So unrelated to the COVID up, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so looks like Gary's going to speak to us.
Yeah, I was going to give you just a heads up for the next board meeting. We're going to, at the next board meeting on this item, we will have a closed session item for discussion, and then we'll have a consideration of the claim in open session. But just as a brief background for you prior to that, so we have some familiarity. The district had leased a small portion of its property to Verizon some time ago for construction of a cell tower. And after that, when they were ready for construction, Verizon hired a contractor. That contractor also hired a drilling company to build the foundation for the cell tower. Unfortunately, when the driller was out there, drilling had pretty much completed the hole. Something happened with this rig, and it threw him off the machine and into the hole, and unfortunately he was killed. So an attorney representing his family has filed a claim with the district for unspecified amount of damages. One of the precursors on the filing of lawsuits against the public agency is that they have to file a claim with the district first for consideration by the board, and that's what we'll be doing at the next board meeting. And I've been working with staff and evaluating the claim. We prepared a memorandum to staff is reviewing right now, and so we'll be prepared to give you a lot more detail at the next board meeting in closed session for we can discuss it at that time. There was, Kelly, there's one other item that Judy Ryan and I were talking about, and I know it's not on the agenda, but we thought it would be good to give a quick overview, kind of update where we're at with the solar projects that the district's considering right now. Good timing, Joey.
Yeah, so we've made a little progress. Maybe I'll stand away from that. Does that help?
Should be good.
Okay. We've made a little bit of progress since the last time we reported to the full board, and I actually anticipate that the representative from the core ProStar team, Denver Williams, who's been before the board before, is going to come, well, I guess virtually, and give a more formal presentation at the next board meeting.
But in the meantime, a couple of things have happened. We had a call Gary and I did with Liberty and one of their legal counsel last week, and had a productive discussion about how the interconnection of our solar array with the Liberty system might work, what some of their limitations are. One of the biggest takeaways from that meeting, I thought, was this concept that there would be some sort of, what do you want to call them, standby charges or non-bypassable fees is another phrase we've used, that would be charged to the district for the full amount of power that we're consuming today. So that includes any power that we're receiving from the solar array. So the financial analysis that Core and ProStar have developed so far needs to be revised to take into account these additional charges that would be coming from Liberty because they were being represented as avoided costs in Core and ProStar's original analysis. So they are working on that and said that they'll be ready to make a new presentation to the board in January on that. At the same time, they've been doing a little bit of legwork on our behalf with their financiers and some other project concepts that they thought we might be of interest, or might be of interest to us. And they want to present on those too, and that includes a backup battery storage sort of option that might allow us to reduce the size of the array, store more of that power locally to be able to use it throughout the day without having to feed as much, if any, power onto the grid. So I think the climate out there seems to be changing so rapidly that, yeah, some of these financing options are becoming more and more appealing.
Well, I have to admit, I was on a call with, kind of related to this. It was such an interesting call because I've been following this kind of subject matter for so long. And I literally text my brother and I said, we have a free market solution to decarbonize the system. Like, it was the first time I'd ever felt that reality in and it was really exciting. But it was kind of tempered with, like, as a diehard 49er fan working with the Cowboys, it's just hard. So I got a lot of that. But no, I mean, it was a really it was just a really kind of remarkable thing. Or really kind of remarkable. We were on a call where EV charging. And literally Core and ProStar, their combination package, could deliver it faster, cheaper, and you get to maintain ownership compared with engaging with the utility company. And I had always thought, as kind of evaluating the subject matter, when you got to the point of kind of that free market tipping point, that was always the arc we needed to reach. And it was the first time in all that time, like I said, that I mean, you could probably speak to this as well, but it was pretty remarkable, really, really exciting, actually.
Yeah, and so he didn't give me a whole lot of detail on what that configuration might look like, but I think that's what he's planning on working on in the next couple of weeks, and felt comfortable saying that we could bring a staff report with more details next time.
Julie?
Yes.
How did the site visit go this week?
It was marginally successful. In that the site walk went well. Trevor and I split our resources, and he went out on the site walk with the construction team, looking at the site itself and potential challenges out there. And then I came in here in the boardroom with Denver and a couple of other of the team members, and we called Liberty. I'll start with the sidewalk side of things. I think everybody feels really good about the space solutions and the routing to tie the system in. What they're proposing is that they do a line side tie-in as opposed to a load side tie-in. So what that means is the inner tie of the solar would be between our Liberty connection and our switchgear. And so it would be coming in at the 14.4 kilovolts. And so that would have the potential to have less negative an impact on the operation of the plant if the solar were to like fluctuate, because it's got our transformers and our switchgear kind of buffering that. So everybody thought that looked great. It's like super convenient. You can bring the cabling right down the south access road, which hasn't got like any conflicts in it, as opposed to like having to bring it into the plant itself. And so that looked like it was going to be a really good solution. For the group of us that were in the room, it wasn't nearly as productive. Liberty's engineer, who was supposed to be on call to answer a bunch of questions, did not show. Apparently they had some issue with the storm coming in on their system yesterday that he had to go take care of, and so it was the four of us on one side and Jennifer down there, Liberty's like client handler on the other. She doesn't have the technical knowledge to answer the questions that they had. So Denver walked away from that phone call fairly disappointed in the amount of progress we were able to make, but we did get another call scheduled for next week that will hopefully make up for that.
One other development, recently we had a call with Optimy, who is the company that helped put the RFP together to select the preferred proposer for the solar array. And the purpose of that call was to discuss the issues that have been identified with the core draft power purchase agreement that would be entered in between core and the district. On that call, we had representatives from Optimy. We had, I was there. We had some district staff there, and we also had, I know, at least the city attorney for Southlake on the call as well. And so we went through comments that Optimy had prepared and that we had prepared. And since then, Optimy has consolidated all those comments into one draft of the PPA. That is being sent to CORE right now for review, and we have a call scheduled with CORE next week. I think it's December 23rd to get their a preliminary discussion on our comments. And so the power purchase agreement is typically a fairly complicated document, and negotiating it usually takes one of the longer lead items to get accomplished. So that's CORE requested that we get comments to them sooner than later to start that process. And so I think we have started on it right now, and we'll just keep that ball moving forward.
So did you guys catch all that?
Kind of.
I can give you the one sentence summary is that Optimy, the consultant that has helped us through the RFP process, has now consolidated all the comments from the various parties, all the different agencies involved, and are returning a summarized consolidated set of comments on the power purchase agreement to CORE and ProStar for them to consider. So. And it is likely to be one of the longer processes that we have to go through and get into the final agreement. So. All right. Any other questions?
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
I have one quick thing. I'm in the very early stages of working on refinancing some of our debt. Either 4 or possibly 6 getting rolled into one. And obviously when you refinance, one of the purposes is to hopefully save some money, and which we are, not a ton, because nothing we have outstanding now actually is considered a high interest rate. But we'll probably save somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 a year, maybe more. But one of the other purposes is to try to get rid of some of our debt instruments, because we've got 5 more SRF loans that will close in the next 18 months. And so we're just trying to reduce some of our administration required for those. And I'm just giving you a heads up because periodically over the next few months, you'll see some items come up on the agenda that require approval.
So, if there's nothing else, I guess this meeting is adjourned.
Very good.